Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our CMP webinar here on July 23rd. My name is Colleen Fillmore, and I am the State Department of Education Child Nutrition Director. The state agency team is here today to provide updates and answer questions you have during COVID-19 and the reopening of schools. Please mark your calendars for the next CMP webinar, which will be on August 6th at the same time. We realize everyone is working hard making plans for the reopening of school. We have heard from several districts sharing their process for serving students and asking for guidance concerning USDA regulations. The state agency CMP team participates in several calls with USDA, and the scenarios that you have shared with us, we have passed along to them. Once we hear back from USDA on the different scenarios and if they are approved, we will share statewide. During this webinar, Heather will be sharing some next steps concerning a CMP town hall meeting for the reopening of the schools. We have some good news on the fiscal side. Idaho has received $2 million for Idaho Rebound money for child nutrition programs. Recently, we had a meeting with the state auditor to discuss what is required documentation to receive this money. There are areas that are reimbursement. Funds may only be used to cover the costs that, number one, are necessary expenditures incurred during the public health emergency with respect to the COVID-19. Number two is were not accounted for in the budget most recently approved as of March 27th, 2020, which was the date of enactment of the CARES Act. And number three, that it was incurred during the period that begins April 1st and ends May 31st. The reason for those 2 months is those were the 200% COVID months for all sponsors here in Idaho. As we work with Idaho State Department of Education Accounting Office, we need to determine what kind of expenses districts will be requesting for reimbursement. So with that said, Sean Charters in our office sent out a survey yesterday to all Idaho CMP program contacts asking for what type of expenses that will be requested under this rebound money. Please look at the due date for that, and once we get that information, we will determine, working with our accounting office, how we will put together a spreadsheet with the needed codes for those types of expenses. The GRA system will be used for these funds. These spreadsheets will need to be returned into the GRA system back to us so we can go ahead and approve them and make sure that they qualify under the three different points that I have already mentioned on this webinar. So once we have more information, sorry, I was told to talk louder. Once we have more information, we will ensure that you are aware when this process will begin. So I'll have other people in the office come in and tell me if they can hear me better now. So I apologize if you need anything repeated. Please let me know through the Q&A, and I'm happy to do that. An important update, all COVID-related information, is that it has been moved from Governor Little's COVID-19 website to the Idaho State Department of Education website that is titled Fall 2020 Public Schools Reopening. It's easy to find. The only thing you do is go to the front page of the Idaho State Department of Education, and you will see the button right there by our superintendent's picture and her announcement. So please begin submitting your questions, and we look forward to answering them on this webinar. So today we will have Heather, TJ, and Marianne be giving updates in different areas, and when they are done, we will begin addressing the questions. I do have one question that was sent to me into my email before the webinar, so I am going to go ahead and address that one right now. A question for today's webinar: will food service staff be required to wear masks during service of food this year, or will this be determined by the local health department? So we recommend that CDC guidance is followed, and certainly we love the idea of the local health department. You need to be in communication with them too. Most likely, from everything that we have seen, they will ask for masks to be worn, but go ahead and look at the CDC guidance and also talk with your local health department. Okay, so for now, I am going to turn the floor over to Heather Bloom. So Heather, you're up.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see that. What we are looking at is, it looks like a survey. So it's through Microsoft, and as a process in the state agency, in order to track how food service directors across the state would like to use the nationwide USDA waivers that came out several weeks ago, we've created a process where we send out the survey and you answer a series of questions that you can see here. So the survey is called SY 2021 School Meals Waiver Opt-in Form. So this is the official, you are asking the state agency for approval to operate under the nationwide waivers, and it goes through each individual waiver. We start with contact information, city, and then the next section would go into the waiver one. It would walk you through a series of scenarios where you are looking to actually utilize any given waiver, and so it will be very clear which waiver you would need to apply for. There's a question that says, would you like to opt in? And then that will be submitted to us. So our internal process at that point, once you have completed this survey, which will be coming out shortly, the survey has not gone out yet, but it will be coming out, and the reason for that I will clarify in a moment. So once you submit this, it will be reviewed internally in our office, and then you will receive a formal letter that indicates that you are in fact approved to operate under these waivers. And there are 5 different nationwide waivers that have varying degrees of scrutiny from the state agency. And some of those you're simply notifying us you would like to utilize it. Some of them do take a different degree of review on our part. The meal pattern flexibilities is one that is going to be taken on a case-by-case basis, as well as the parent pickup, ensuring that there is actually a plan in place to make sure only students who are eligible to receive child nutrition meals and that those children are not receiving duplicate meals. So this process will be coming out to you via broadcast email that will go to the program contact that is listed in My Idaho CMP in your application packet. So make sure that information is up to date so that you'll continue to receive the notifications we send out. The reason this hasn't gone out currently is because the state agency has actually requested it. So those can be found if you're curious what additional waiver flexibilities we're requesting on your behalf at the Fall 2020 Public Schools Reopening website that Colleen had mentioned at the outset of this call. So you scroll down and child nutrition is housed under the safety and wellness. And many of you, if you happen to be emailing those in our office, the auto reply on ours has the direct link to this website. So that's another place you can find it if you end up losing the pathway to get here. But essentially, under safety and wellness, there's a child nutrition tab. Once you get down there, you can see the NSLP. We have quite a few resources. The nationwide waivers are listed here if you would like to read through the actual policy that came out and the language surrounding that. But then we have additional waiver requests. And so NSLP monitoring requests, that is something that we submitted to our regional office waiting to hear back on. Recently added was a potable water waiver request, so the flexibility to not have to offer potable water at every meal service. State agency request to allow parent to guardian pickup for the fresh fruit and vegetable. And then there's also opting into the USDA Foods Entitlement Waiver. And we're currently considering additional waiver flexibilities that may or may not be helpful while knowing that USDA is likely to release more guidance. So this is the website where you can come if you're curious about what is the actual language included in the nationwide waiver once you get this survey form. So the last thing I wanted to share, as Colleen mentioned, we do have another mode of collaboration that we would like to share with you all, and that is a back-to-school town hall. And so what this is, we're planning a meeting similar to this one, but with much more audience participation in the sense that we're going to host it via Zoom, which allows for breakout rooms. So next Wednesday at 10 a.m., so Wednesday, July 29th at 10 a.m., we will be hosting a town hall for food service directors considering back to school plans and how to operate and run food service programs. And so this is a very brief agenda, and this is included as a flyer in this webinar. So if you go to the handouts that are included in the webinar, you can download this flyer. We will be sending out a notification of this upcoming meeting sometime today, and that will include the registration link as well. This is a live link up here, so once you get the flyer, you can click on that register to attend. But it's about 90 minutes planned, just so we have time to have robust conversations. But essentially, we'll introduce our panelists, and if there are any updates at that point next Wednesday, we'll be sure to share that from the state agency perspective. But then also turn it over to key food service directors from across the states who are in the process of planning what their meal service operation is going to look like and how that varies depending on what the education and those in the district administration end up doing. So getting a bit of a framework for what does this process of planning for back to school look like. And then we'll break into small groups. So those who are able to attend the Zoom meeting will be divided into small conversation groups, and you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions. We'll have a state agency person in each of those groups to help facilitate or gather questions that need further clarification. And then we'll rejoin the group at the end for a share out of those small conversations. This is happening the day before we would have had our in-person annual NSLP mandatory training. So hopefully this is starting to get more towards that collaborative feel and that networking that we would have had in those in-person trainings. And Zoom does allow for video. So this would be a place where you could see your peers, talk to them, ask the questions. We can gather information and share anything that we have as an update. So that is the town hall that will be next Wednesday. We're hoping that you all can join. Like I said, the flyer here is listed. Link is live. We'll be sending out a notification of that via broadcast email later today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to TJ, and she has some USDA foods updates.
Thank you so much, Heather. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you again, hear you again. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and quickly switch over to share the screen that I have. So bear with me for a second. Okay, hopefully that worked. So what I wanted to cover today is naturally with the food trucks starting to be delivered to Northwest and school districts trying to figure out what their reopening plans are. There's a lot of conversation about USDA foods. How do we handle inventory that maybe we weren't able to use in the springtime? We've got foods rolling in, you know, et cetera. So first I wanted to circle back around and just remind everyone, if you can participate in the town hall, one of the conversations that we have asked presenters to be prepared to discuss is how they are implementing the use of USDA foods in their reopening plans. So keep that in mind. That will be part of the agenda. The other thing I wanted to just point out is the visual that's on my screen right now is also available as a handout if you'd like to have that. So essentially what we wanted to cover is how critical inventory management is, keeping in mind that recipient agencies, and that is the term that we use for those who receive USDA foods through entitlement value, recipient agencies are responsible for managing their USDA foods inventory. It's not the responsibility of the state agency. It's not the responsibility of Northwest. They are our state contracted warehouse. That food was procured with entitlement value. It belongs to your school district. So it's really important that you know what your options are for managing USDA foods. The thing that's really important, especially under this COVID situation, it's always important to be proactive in inventory management, but particularly we want you to be aware of the tools that help you proactively manage your USDA foods inventory, and that USDA foods inventory management is ongoing regardless of COVID. So there was a lot of confusion last year because we changed systems. It was a new process. But in February, if you'll recall, it seems like an eternity ago, everyone had the opportunity to project and order USDA foods for the coming school year. No, none of us obviously knew that COVID was going to impact how we did that. But some of the tools that are available for managing USDA foods is WebSCM sends out notifications. So it's really important to pay attention to those notifications because there's critical information on those notifications. The other tool that is available in WebSCM is your requisition status report. So let's cover those items. First and foremost, how do I even know if my USDA foods have been received at the state contracted warehouse? Well, you're going to know that multiple ways. If you're watching the WebSCM notifications, you'll see that it identifies if a food if orders have been received by Northwest. So you would know that a portion of those truckloads that went to Northwest may likely have had some of the foods on there that you ordered. And the way that you confirm that is by running a requisition status report. Those requisition status reports give you the status of your individually ordered USDA foods. It will give you a description like on invitation. That means that USDA has put it out for bid. It may give you a status that says it's purchased. You now know that the price is locked in for those foods that you purchased back in February. And it will also tell you that the order has been received. That means that Northwest now has it in stock. So what does that mean to you in terms of planning? Well, you will then see those foods available for release on the inventory release software system. So USDA Foods is a two-part process. You ordered it through WebSCM, but you have to request delivery of it in the inventory release software system. Those two pieces go hand in hand. One of the things that we're hearing, and it's really important to understand this, is that if your inventory, because you were not able to utilize USDA foods during the spring, is already jam-packed, and you've received foods into Northwest already because those those trucks started rolling in back in July, it is essential that you proactively plan for how you're going to, one, integrate those foods into your meals, or two, figure out a way to dispose of your product if you can't use it. And I use the word dispose only because it's all encompassing, but we're not tossing foods. We're just finding someone else that can utilize those foods if you, as maybe a small school district with limited space, can't accept delivery. So keep in mind that delaying orders or shipments of USDA foods has been highly discouraged since the moment we went to ordering foods via WebSCM. And the reason for that is that if they're sitting in Northwest and you are not planning on ordering them, more truckloads are rolling in. And at some point, we run out of space. So you do have some options. One, you can communicate with Sally at Northwest and say, okay, I have some foods that I can take, but I can't take all of them. What does that look like on your end? If they have room, they'll let you know and they'll store it, but they're going to want to know what your plan is for releasing those foods. Can you take it on the next month's order? So they're willing to work. They don't want you to have to give your foods away, and nor does the state agency. So communication is number one priority. But keep in mind that our capacity is limited because at the state agency level, we have to contract for a warehouse. We do not own one of our own. And it has very limited capacity because Northwest does operate another side of their business. They store other foods for other things, not just USDA foods. So realistically, if we have 10% of our recipient agencies asking to delay shipment, of their foods that are currently sitting, we will not be able to accept the next truck that rolls into the state. So please be aware that you need to watch WebSCM notifications. You need to run your status report regularly and know what is happening with your foods and be proactive on those foods in terms of how you're going to use them or dispose of them. So options for, let's say you've reached capacity. There's absolutely no way you can take all of the foods that are sitting at Northwest. You do have options. You can take a portion of your foods by ordering it through IRIS, through the inventory relief software system, and make sure that those foods are going to get to the students you're going to be feeding in the fall and throughout the coming year. You also have the option of providing those foods to any nonprofit organization in your community. The key word is nonprofit. It is your responsibility to ensure that that organization receiving those foods is a nonprofit organization. So what does that mean? There are community centers. You may have an aging facility in your community. You may have a food bank in your community. You can gift those foods to those organizations. The important thing is get copious amounts of documentation. You need to identify the number of cases, the type of product, everything associated with that, because it is going to impact your accounting at the end of the year. So your business manager is going to need to know that the value of foods that was associated to your school did not actually go into your meals program, that you actually gave some of that food away. So think of it as a business transaction and make sure that you're getting everything that you can to validate that this was a donation so that everything is above board and that your business manager has all of the documentation that you need. So if you're considering a donation to a nonprofit, talk to your business manager and find out essentially what they need from you. And make sure that you retain that documentation just for accountability. Make sure it doesn't look like it went somewhere that it potentially should not have gone. So that's an option. And then the other option is, remember, we have the exchange. And on the exchange, we have an exchange tab. That tab allows you to communicate with your fellow schools and say, hey guys, I've got some foods that are sitting at Northwest that I simply cannot take. Is there anybody else out there in a school environment that can take some of this food? I'm happy to give it to you. So that is the other option for disposing of USDA foods that you simply can't use. So the thing to keep in mind is that if you're using the exchange, those foods already, they're sitting at Northwest. You can't offer foods on the exchange if you've already ordered them in IRIS and brought them to your school. So option 1, to feed your students. Option 2, nonprofit. Those are foods in your possession. Option 3, the exchange. Those foods are sitting at Northwest and they need to be disposed of because you have no room to accept them. So we've covered, make sure you've also documented the reason for a donation if you choose to donate. So now we want to go ahead and cover, we're going to move off of inventory management. And I just want to reiterate, it's better to offer up USDA foods that you can't use into your community. Because if they're sitting in a warehouse, they're dating every single day that they're there. And during this time, we participate at the state agency level with multi-stakeholder meetings about every 3 weeks. Food banks will gladly take your food if you can't use them. They are currently having to purchase food. So keep in mind that while it was a value to your school, it's a greater value if it gets into the bellies of people in your community. So that's what's really important about USDA food. If there's a cost associated with donating those foods, make sure that you communicate, hey, there was a value to my school. If a food bank can come pick it up, most of them will, at no charge. So just make sure you're not incurring additional costs associated with that donation. And now, let's see. Okay, and also I just wanted to let everyone know, there are some school districts that say, hey, I don't have enough of foods right now. We have some schools that have figured out a way to feed. They fed, I think we looked at numbers this morning, 3 million more meals through the summer feeding program than was expected. So USDA foods went out during the COVID crisis, during the March, April, May, June, July even feeding models. So if you need more USDA foods, keep in mind that the exchange tab currently has bonus items on there, lots of bonus items actually, trade mitigation items. Those come to you with no cost to your entitlement. So if you need them and can use them, please claim them. We also have product on the surplus tab. What the surplus tab represents is cumulatively all RAs ordered a product. Let's say it was green beans. The truckload was 100 cases short when we consolidated all of those individual requisitions by RAs. The state agency said, well, they're going to need the green beans. So we, at the state agency level, picked up with our entitlement those additional 100 cases. That's what's on the surplus. So we do assess a value to your entitlement because I have to recoup what I spent. So, but if you're shy on entitlement, I still need those foods to move. So if you need surplus items, please claim them. And then we've already covered the exchange tab where RAs are sharing products amongst each other because you simply can't use the product or you need product that's being offered. Once items are claimed through the exchange, it's important to understand that there is a manual redistribution. One step by the state agency, another step by Northwest, before those products will show up in your inventory release software system. But products that have already been delivered at Northwest, that typically only takes a couple of days. So if you're planning and you go out and look at the exchange and you want some bonus items or some surplus items, and you look at the date that's on the exchange, because we made sure that we put the receiving date on the exchange. If the product's already sitting there, it's only going to take a couple of days for you to see it in your inventory release software system once you've claimed it. However, there are some products that are on the exchange. If you look at the date, it might not be received until November, January. So keep in mind that those products aren't ready to claim yet, not ready to release yet, but you can still claim them. When you see them in your inventory release software system is when they're receipted by Northwest, and they will redistribute those to you. So make sure that you're looking at your inventory release software system, and if you have product in your inventory release software system, it means it's yours and you need to take it. A lot of the product that was doled out last year that you claimed on the that many claimed on the inventory release, on the exchange, never got requested for delivery through the inventory release software system. So it sat at Northwest, and the state agency had to donate it because it was dating out. So remember that two-step process. And let's see. I think that's it on that part. Okay, so WebSCM notifications. We've gotten a lot of questions about this, so I wanted to just cover something. Now that truckloads are being purchased by USDA and shipments are occurring regularly, you're going to see WebSCM notifications that will reference every single time a USDA Foods moves through the process of procurement, purchase, and then delivered to the warehouse. So make sure you read those notifications carefully because they have different information on them. For example, we got an email from someone that said, hey, I didn't order 912 cases of this product. But the notification was clearly said, the quantity shown below represents the total quantity for the corresponding SDA sales order. SDA is the state agency. In other words, that was just letting everyone that was participating in that truckload know that there was a change in status. But the amount, the 912 cases that was on that notification didn't belong to one RA. It was all of our food. So make sure you read those really carefully. And if you get a notification and you're curious how it impacts you, run your requisition status report because it's going to tell you the number of cases that you were impacted by on that change. So using WebSCM proactively and regularly will help you know where your USDA foods are in the process. And then finally, wanted to just cover the USDA Foods Entitlement Waiver. We did send out a broadcast email. The state agency did, in fact, choose to opt in to a waiver that was provided by USDA. And what that allows us to do is to not have next school year's entitlement value based on meals served during the COVID crisis. We did data analysis, and fortunately, Melissa is great at extracting the data out of our system, and we learned that we were off in the NSLP lunch meals served by over 5 million meals, which would gravely impact our entitlement if we didn't opt into the waiver. So essentially, the meals that were served the previous year will be the number associated with our entitlement for school year 2021. I also wanted to let everyone know that the entitlement per meal rate has been released. It's effective and in WebSCM, and the rate actually went up by a it went up to 37 cents. Last year's entitlement value was 0.3625. So not a lot, but some. So we just wanted you to be aware that the entitlement rate has increased. So what does that mean to you? Go into WebSCM and run your entitlement report, because now you'll know that the rates have been adjusted, foods have been purchased, and you can see where you actually sit today for entitlement. That should be also something that you're managing consistently. So with that, I'm going to go ahead now and turn the time over to Mary Ann. Thank you so much.
Thanks, TJ. Good morning, everyone. This is Mary Ann Libby. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy during this time, and hope your summer feeding operations are going well. I wanted to just do a brief reminder regarding your summer food service packet. Please make sure that you're up to date regarding your meal service dates. We are receiving notification from some sponsors who are extending their meal service dates due to postponing opening of the school. So if you are planning to do this, please be sure to have your SFSP packet reflects your accurate meal service end date. And that's really easy. Just go in through My Idaho CMP, change the end service date, and select the appropriate date on the calendar feature. and just resubmit your packet. Dominique or myself will get a notification and we can review that for you right away. Also, as a side note, please make sure that your summer feeding meal service end date does not overlap with your renewal packets for the school year. And so we want to make sure that there isn't a crossover there. And so that was just my quick reminder regarding the summer feeding program. If you guys have any questions at all, Dominique and I are here to help. Thank you everyone for your hard work and dedication during this very unique time. We really, truly appreciate your partnership and collaboration. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen for some questions that you guys have. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Okay, thank you, team. That was some great information. So the first question we have is, our reviews for this year, are they going to be postponed until the next year? That would be helpful. So Linda, do you want to go ahead and take that one?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes. We are hoping, we have asked for a waiver, and we are hoping that USDA will allow us to waive the reviews for the upcoming school year. And we know that with COVID-19 and the possibility of intermittent school closures, this will make scheduling reviews difficult. But as soon as USDA notifies us in writing that they're approving it, we'll let you know as soon as possible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Okay, next question. Is transportation costs related to bus route, meal drop-offs, an eligible expense to claim for the rebound money? So I'll give it to Dominique, but before I hand it over to her, I just do want to let you know that we still are looking through some checks and balances and what the auditors are going to actually accept and not accept with those 3 different eligibilities that I mentioned earlier. But Dominique, do you want to go ahead and talk to them about the specific regulations with the bus routes, et cetera?
Yes, just quickly, thank you, Colleen. Good morning, everyone. In the summer food service program, transportation costs are an allowable expense. However, as Colleen just noted, we are still working out the details of this rebound money. And so yesterday, I just want to remind everyone, a broadcast email was sent out titled Idaho Rebound Funding Questionnaire, and that is the first step to allow the state agency to look at what the impacts have been to your budget under COVID or operations. So please start with that and fill out that survey, and that will help get us the information that we need to in order to complete this rebound process. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Dominique. Great reminder. Appreciate that. Okay, and next question. Our district has scheduled one day as a digital learning day each week. Would we use the meal count sheets to keep track of the meal counts for reimbursement? So Linda, how about you take that one?
Thanks, Colleen. Good morning, everybody. I forgot to say good morning. Each school, SFA, has to have a process in place to ensure students are not receiving duplicate meals on the digital learning day. So you must keep track of the meals provided to students for each day that you provide the meals. So this is your proof that meals provided should be reimbursed by USDA. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So it looks like we're getting some questions about where are the handouts on the webinars and can they be printed out? And it looks like both Linda and TJ have some info they want to share. So Linda, how about you go first?
Yeah, the handouts are listed under the handout section. And if you download them to your desktop, you should be able to print them, access them, and utilize the link on the live document on your desktop to sign up for the town hall meeting.
Thank you, Linda. TJ, was there any more that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, and I was just going to add that if for some reason you can't find the handouts or download them, let us know. Just send an email to the child nutrition team or any one of us individually, and we're happy to send those email or those handouts to you.
Great, thank you, TJ. Okay, next question. If our district goes to A and B days and students on opposite days do online learning, can we send a meal for the next day? Since they will be online learning when they are not in school, can we count these meals? So Linda, looks like you want to take that one.
Okay, so as long as it's a scheduled school day, you may claim the meals as long as you, again, have a plan to ensure that you're only providing them to enrolled students and you're keeping the meals safe. So each SFA must have a way to keep track of the meals served for these online learning days.
Okay, great, Linda, thank you. Next question, can students that choose to learn from home still pick up a lunch from school? I think you kind of answered that, but you want to kind of expand on that, Linda?
Yes, if they're truly totally online learners, we're still waiting for a little bit more guidance. We have asked USDA this question, and as soon as we know, we will let you know. Unsure of the answer on this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Okay, next question. Can students that choose to learn from home, oh wait, that's the one I just read, I'm sorry. And then the next one is, can we print the handouts? And you, Linda, answered that. And next question, how do I find out if my school is using the commodities, the WBSCM and the IRIS system? I am not sure we are using them. So TJ, we'll let you answer that one.
Thank you, Colleen. And yeah, I did go ahead and send a message privately to that individual. If you will just make sure to email the USDA Foods team at sde.idaho.gov, we can look in the systems and determine whether or not you're registered and talk about the way, if you hadn't been registered in the past, how we can facilitate some USDA foods to your school. So we'll look forward to that email from you.
Great, thank you, TJ. Next question, to clarify, the bonus items we claim on the exchange do not need to be reported to our business office like our donations do. And TJ, we'll let you answer that one.
Yes, and that's a really great question. Any food that has a value associated with it, an actual entitlement value associated with it, must be incorporated into your accounting. But the bonus foods and trade mitigation, they're all free. So no, you do not have to account for those specifically. And you'll notice when you run a WebSCM report for your values, those bonus and trade mitigation foods, if you're tracking the values, you won't see those in your, what we used to refer to as a PAL report. So really great question from business perspective.
Great, and that person said thank you. Okay, next question. Any idea when the fresh fruit and vegetable grants will be awarded? So Jen, let you take that one.
All right, good morning, everyone. You know, unfortunately, no, we do not know yet. We are awaiting USDA to release a dollar amount that we can then work with to calculate per student awards for the sites that did apply for the grant. So we will definitely communicate that as soon as we know. So, you know, we're starting the process. And then we'll get those addendums out so people can sign their award amounts. So we're ready, just in a waiting phase, and I apologize that that's putting you in that same position. I do want to let you know the state agency is working on trying to get as much flexibility as possible to serve the fresh fruit and vegetable next year. So we're currently awaiting the extensions of the non-congregate feeding and the time flexibility waivers that were allowable last spring. And we also have applied for a waiver to allow for parents to pick up. That has not been approved yet, nor have the other waivers been released yet, but we are working towards getting as much flexibility as possible so when the grants are awarded, we can move forward. Thank you.
Great. It's a good question because very timely with school coming up. And so, Jen, appreciate that information. Next question, students who are doing digital homeschooling full-time, are they allowed to pick up a meal from school? I believe that we sort of answered this before, but Heather, did you have more you wanted to answer or provide there?
Yes, I'm happy to provide just a small clarification that the current USDA nationwide flexibilities allow for students who are learning via remote education from a school building and are a part of that school building enrollment. They may receive a school meal, as they are considered an enrolled student in the district. The use of the word homeschooling in this particular question was actually a question we passed along to our regional office earlier this week, and we are waiting clarification as to the difference between those who might be actually classified as homeschooled compared to those receiving distance learning from a district. So depending on the situation in that particular district of the individual asking the question, it could go either way.
Great, thank you, Heather. Okay, so next question, can you address the water requirement for NSLP? So Linda, I'll go ahead and give that to you.
Yes, I'm happy to report that we've asked USDA for a waiver of this requirement for the next school year, but we have not received approval as of this time. So keep your fingers crossed. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Linda. Next question. If we go to an A-B day, our superintendent wants us to serve lunch to the kids that are there as A-day kids and provide a pickup lunch to the kids that are there on the B-day kids. Is this allowed? So Heather, I'll give that one to you.
Yes, and under the current USDA nationwide waivers, this flexibility is allowed as those students are out of the school building population. So yes, they may be served a pickup meal even when they are receiving distance learning on one of their A or B days.
And at this time, I also want to just do the reminder of the town hall meeting that Heather and the team have been working on, because we are hopeful this will really give lots of different scenarios and help, you can help your neighboring school district out if they're still looking and trying to figure out how to serve meals this fall. Okay, next question. We are running the NSLP program. It means that any meals we offer a student does get the normal charge unless they are free or reduced. And they're asking if that is correct. And Linda, do you want to go ahead and answer that?
Sure. Currently, under NSLP regulations, that is correct. But there is a lot of discussion nationwide about changes. But until we see that, plan on doing it the way you've always done it under National School Lunch Program. So charge the children currently. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next question. I see we have the offer versus serve waiver. Can I do offer versus serve in schools and serve in others? So TJ, I'll give you that one.
Thanks. Yes, and just to reiterate, the offer versus serve waiver was issued to allow SFAs the option to not, because offer versus serve is required at the high school level. The OVS waiver waives the requirement for high school to receive OVS, so that you could then, work with a serve model if that is what needs to happen for your planning for meals.
Perfect. Thank you, TJ. Okay, it's this time. That is the last question that we have. I'm going to toss it out to the state agency team. Is there anything you can think of that we have not included that would be good for our audience to hear? Okay, so I did just get one more question. Do we need to write a request to the State Department to send those meals to go home for opposite days? So someone on the NSLP team, would you like to answer that?
Hi, this is Heather, and I can take that because that goes back to that survey of requests that I had gone over previously in the webinar. It has not gone out via email yet, but you can expect to see a survey that you will be informing us which flexibilities you would like to operate under. And sending meals home is a meal service operation that would require one of those waivers. Actually, two of them. It would be the meal service time and the non-congregate feeding waivers. So please pay attention to your email for that survey to come out, because that will be how you notify us how you would like to elect these different USDA nationwide waivers.
Okay, great input, Heather. Thank you. Next question, does the offer versus serve waiver allow us to serve a reimbursable sack lunch on digital days?
And
TJ, you took the, oh, go ahead. Whoever.
oh, okay, TJ, you can take that.
Go ahead, Linda, you're good.
So does somebody on the NSLP want to take that?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, the confusion on the offer versus serve waiver, it was issued so that high school students don't have to participate in OVS. So regardless of age grade, all students will have to receive a reimbursable sack lunch.
Okay, great. Thank you, TJ.
Okay.
Yeah, and Linda, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say that if you do opt into the offer versus serve waiver, currently you have to serve the food in the full amounts. So if it is a high school offer versus serve waiver situation, you have to serve the 1 cup of fruit and 1 cup of vegetables.
Okay, good clarification. Thank you. Okay, it looks like those are all of our questions. And when I tossed it out to the team, they do a lot of discussion and planning before the webinars. And so I think we probably have covered everything that we thought is current right now with USDA. As a reminder, things are just changing constantly. So we will be sending broadcast emails out. We'll be putting information on the reopening website that Heather showed you earlier in this webinar. And then again, any questions or anything that you have from us, either email us or give us a call. We're happy to help you. So at this point, since we do not have any other additional questions, we will close this webinar. But please remember that the next webinar that we will have in this format will be, oh, let me see, I think it's August 6th. And then we have the town hall meeting next week that Heather will be sending information out on. So thank you everyone for your hard work, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.